Keep digging!
Boys, there is no way. There is no f***ing way this actually happened in the first UFC event after Aspinall vs. Gane ends due to an eye poke. I am tired of this bullshit. Weekend after weekend, pay-per-view after pay-per-view, or I guess fight night after pay-per-view. It's the same shit. If it's not an eye poke, it's a fence grab. For those of y'all who did not tune in for Fight Night Garcia vs. Onama, Tom Aspinall's teammate, Ante Deljia, eye-poked Waldo Cortes Acosta, and then shortly after, TKO'd him. Or so I thought when Mark Smith, the referee, appeared to have waved it off, but apparently he was just calling a timeout. Turns out the entire flurry that ended the fight was set up by a pinky to the eyeball of Cortes Acosta. They restart the fight, and of course, Waldo almost immediately slimes out the Croatian. And not only did he knock out Tom Aspinall's teammate at heavyweight, this dude Waldo actually grabs his eye immediately after and goes back into pain mode, and then has a very similar looking rag on his eye. Now, not all eye pokes are built the same. I realize the double gouge on Tom Aspinall is definitely worse than what happened here, but man, this is almost poetic. You would think it's fake, the amount of coincidences that happened here. I mean, Ante Deljia was talking in interviews leading up to this fight about how he's never eye poked anyone in 30 plus pro fights, and that you need to punish people that foul more. And now he's complaining about the way this was handled. And I can kind of understand why. That adrenaline dump, thinking you won the fight and then having to restart it, losing, you're gonna be salty, but it's a bit hard to be sympathetic when you are the one who committed the foul. But either way, this is just a bad look for Team Aspinall. It really shouldn't be. The narrative coming out of this should be, we need to do something about eye pokes, and we need an overhaul of reffing in general, and that Waldo is a beast for winning after getting eye poked. Remember, the majority of fighters who get eye poked end up losing the fight. This is a statistical fact. This video isn't about that fight night. This video is about my frustration, and I think all of our frustration, with how reffing is handled in the UFC. And I say the UFC specifically because this is not a problem that is equally prevalent across the entire sport of MMA. Go watch the old Pride fights, go watch Ryzen or some One Championship, go watch One Championship 4-ounce Muay Thai. They're in fingerless MMA style gloves, and you don't see eye pokes every week. The UFC really stands out in how frequently this happens. And in part, it's because of their poor gloves, but I really think it has more to do with how the UFC is enforcing their rules, or not enforcing the rules, I should say. And we're hearing refs say, well, it was unintentional, hard warning. I don't understand this. This is not how any other sport works, whether we're talking about combat sports or the more traditional team sports. In what other sport does the intentionality of the foul matter? When you watch football, the referee doesn't go, well, that face mask didn't look like it was on purpose, so we're not going to call a penalty. You know, you watch baseball, and if a pitcher drills a batter, whether it be by an inch or to the square of his back, whether it's on purpose or on accident, the automatic rule is that you go to first base. And there's no, well, the first batter you hit, you get a hard warning. Well, your first warning's in the back. These are professional athletes. It's not like the rules of the sport change every single event. Why do you need a warning in the back not to foul? And why is that your first warning? There should be no warnings, and they don't need to inform the fighters of the rules before the fight. You're already in the UFC. You are at the top level of the sport, the pinnacle. You have been a professional MMA fighter for probably more than 10 fights at this point. And when would we actually say a fighter did something intentionally? It's not like fighters go, okay, I'm throwing the 1-2, and now for the eye poke. Yeah. I mean, this shit is getting ridiculous. It's starting to make the sport look like a joke, or at least the UFC look like a joke. We got fighters coming out here with the Captain Insano technique.
He poked me in the eye. Captain Insano shows no mercy.
Jon Jones has basically admitted to eye poking people on purpose.
I do poke people in the eyes, and it's very illegal.
And Derek Lewis actually admitted on JRE to fouling people intentionally. And we all, laughed it off because we love Derek Lewis, obviously.
If I cheat in the fight, shit, I know one time I kneed them in the nuts. Soon the fight started, I kneed them in the nuts on purpose, just because I wanted to get my nerves to calm down. Any means necessary. If I want to start poking the eyes and all that, I'm going to poke you in the eye. Because you're going to get a warning. They're not going to take a point soon you poke somebody in the eye. Shit, everybody know that. They say, oh, no, I'm going to be like, oh, man, my bad, I ain't even mean to do that. But just know, it's going to be on record, right? Just know that if I ever do that in my previous fight, just know I'm laughing on the inside and saying that I got your ass.
It's on the referees and the commission. It should be one warning in the back, and then if you do it in the cage, start taking points.
Yeah, for sure. It won't happen. You know, I know what I'm doing when I'm out there. Now I've been having enough fights.
Man, this is still my favorite heavyweight. H-Town, baby. But seriously, why would the intention matter? You are responsible for your weapons. When fighters do something good on accident, it's not like we don't count that. You know, that perennial nerve kick that no one's really throwing intentionally, it just kind of happens and now you have an advantage on your opponent. It's not like we don't count that TKO that's based off of that drop foot leg kick in some of those fights. And you know, the Aspinall Gane situation, it's not a new phenomenon. This happens all the time. This is just pinnacle, the highest profile. It literally could be the heavyweight championship. So I'm hoping, because this was the undisputed heavyweight championship on a card that was really heavily carried by that main event, that this can be the straw that broke the camel's back, because I don't know how much more straw we can put on that fucker. But you know, I'm not over here holding my breath, seeing as this is how Dana White reacted.
Who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit? Yeah, who gives a shit? I don't know. Me, for one. I'm thinking most of the fans. Certainly anyone who bought an overpriced ticket for UFC 321 gives a shit. I would think the fighters, their coaches, their loved ones, anyone who cares about their general well-being and eyesight, ophthalmologists, the state athletic commissions, I don't know. I imagine people care. If there's one person I know that should for sure care about this situation, it'd probably be the president of the company. And there lies the problem, y'all. It's not just the gloves that need to be changed. The UFC needs a complete overhaul of its reffing top to bottom, and honestly the judging too, but that's a topic for another video. And this dude Dana is asleep at the wheel. Better gloves would certainly help, but like Jim Miller said, you know, the guy with the most UFC fights in the company's history who's never eye poked someone, how is it possible for him to never eye poke someone across his lengthy UFC tenure, and for certain fighters to eye poke people every single fight? I mean, Cyril Gane's teammate, Nasruddin Imavov, same gym, also eye poked someone several times in his last fight, and we've seen him doing this exact same thing. It's almost like you totally can close your fists, but they're choosing to keep their hands out like this intentionally. And you know why? Because it's effective. I mean, Jason Herzog's dumbass said just as much in the back before the fight.
The best part about fouling, right, is that it works.
That is a crazy clip to have before what actually happened at UFC 321.
Whole lot of training for that.
Don't worry about it. It's gonna be okay, mate.
What the is he doing?
But yeah, for some reason, the UFC just seems completely uninterested in fixing this problem. I mean, usually when this promotion does something scummy, there's a very clear effect on their bottom line. There's a very obvious reason they did it. Why'd they take the fighters' sponsors away when it's not hurting their bottom line, it's only helping the fighters? Well, that gives them more control over the fighters and an ability to make more money putting their own sponsors on the fight kits. Why have they kept bonuses at $50K since 2013 despite nearly 40% inflation to the US dollar in that time? Holy shit, is that the real number? Sorry, that's just really startling as someone who's been working in this country since around 2013. But anyways, yeah, why do they keep the bonuses the same, lining their own pockets? When the company's making an all-time profit with new deals like Paramount deal, why do those bonuses stay the same? Despite the inflation, despite the fact that the company is making more money than ever, it's because they don't give a shit about helping the fighters. They're trying to line their own pockets, the Zuffa guys, or in this case now, I guess it's TKO. But with eye pokes, I just don't get it. How does this help Dana White and the UFC brass? I mean, it can't just be sheer laziness. Is it an unwillingness to admit there is a problem because that means it reflects poorly upon them? Is this about protecting Jon Jones' legacy? I can't really think of another reason.
He copied my whole fucking flow! Word for word, bar for bar!
Let me know what y'all think in the comments, please, on any of these topics. I'm actually very curious to hear what y'all's thoughts are. I'm hoping UFC 321 is the sacrificial lamb that actually gets them to do something about the reffing, because the sport is starting to feel like a joke. I mean, like I said, if it's not an eye poke, it's a fence grab, it's low blows, it's people hooking the gloves. I mean, low blows are one thing. You really can unintentionally hit someone below the belt. You know, you throw a kick and they move forward. It happens. It's been done to me in a Muay Thai fight, so I get that. But eye pokes are intentional, and if they're not, it's you being irresponsible with your weapons. So whether it's intentional or not,
Who gives a shit?
there is really no excuse for having your fingers out like this in your opponent's face. You know, this isn't even the first heavyweight championship in the last few years where the entire narrative leaving the fight was about an eye poke or a series of eye pokes. I mean, y'all remember the DC Stipe trilogy? That entire first fight, DC raked Stipe in the eye right before knocking him out. And there were hilarious comments about how DC learned from the best because, of course, Jon Jones, the man with the massive compilation of him eye-poking people, had eye-poked DC a bunch in their fights. And then you get DC eye poking Stipe again. He actually had to have surgery after one of those 2 fights. I mean, the pictures of his face, he looked like he got attacked by a cat in the freaking fights. Trilogy comes around, Stipe goes knuckle deep in DC's eye. It was so fucked. I mean, he probably should have stopped fighting, but he soldiered through that. And afterwards, it's, hard for anyone to have any sympathy for the man because we all saw what you did in the first 2 fights. I mean, Mark Goddard literally gaslit him when he was like, yo, I got eye poked. He was like, no, that's a punch. And I don't know if that's like a makeup reffing call or if that's just Mark Goddard doing a terrible job. I wouldn't put it past Mark Goddard to be biased in a fight. I also wouldn't put it past him to just be terrible at his job. I mean, y'all saw Sharapudin Magomedov grabbing the fence over in the Middle East, and Mark Goddard does nothing about it. At most, you see these guys getting a stop grabbing the fence or their hand batted away. Why aren't they put on the ground? Why isn't there a point taken? If you want these fouls to stop, you have to have severe immediate consequences. If you get 1 warning before an immediate consequence, that means you get 1 legal foul. It might as well be legal, I mean, if Jon Jones actually lost a point every time he eye poked someone, do you think he'd keep doing it? And at least Jon Jones generally just sticks to eye pokes. Jon's former opponent and Tom's last opponent, Cyril Gane, his foul resume is actually more impressive than Jon Jones's from a cheating perspective. And I like Cyril Gane. He seems like a chill guy. I think that's why people haven't really caught on to the fact that he's one of the dirtiest fighters in UFC history. He literally smashed my boy Bam Bam to the back of the head with a hammer fist. That's the finishing sequence. He hammer-fisted Tai Tuivasa to get the knockout. And of course, the ever-incompetent Mark Goddard did nothing about it. Cyril Gane managed to low-blow Jon Jones within like the first 30 seconds of their fight.
I've noticed in a lot of Cyril Gane's fights, he hits people in the back of the head quite a bit, and I didn't want any type of dirty play happening on such a big time.
Jon Jones is in black.
My God, could you imagine the fouls we could have seen, boys? That would have been the high-level eye-poking championship had it actually made it into the later rounds. But yeah, the eye pokes are just inexcusable. I see how you can accidentally hit someone to the groin. I mean, hell, I've accidentally hit someone to the cup. I've been hit to the cup in Muay Thai, not MMA, but same concept. Someone moves in, they move away, whatever. That's how your teep, that's how your inside leg kick accidentally connects on the cup. It's when your cup is not in the right spot that it's really bad. That's why the based Thai G-string steel cup is an elite cup. I don't care if it's a bit sus to wear. It is elite. There's a reason the Thais wear it. Speaking of the Thais, you almost see no eye pokes in 4-ounce Muay Thai in one championship with those fingerless MMA style gloves that they use. I wonder why that is. I mean, these aren't guys who came up training in those gloves for most of their careers. Almost all these guys were stadium Muay Thai fighters. And yet, they seem to not have the same problem. It's almost like the rules are enforced more in one championship and their gloves aren't complete dog shit. And I think that's a good segue to talking about Demetrious Johnson's take. And if y'all haven't seen it, I'll play it.
You're never going to get rid of eye pokes in mixed martial arts because we have our hands exposed. It's just the instincts of the physicality of like fighting. When you learn how to kick, they say open your hands. It's called hand exchange. I'm hand exchange because I want to block my opponent's vision. And damn, let me tell you, Cyril Gane did a great job blocking that vision. I want to block his vision so he does not see the leg kick.
Now, I really hate to disagree with DJ on anything MMA related. I have the utmost respect for him. He's one of the GOATs of the sport, but I have to disagree. I just do. I don't think your hand being out as a natural reaction is a valid argument because it is a natural reaction to post, to put your hand up. That's true. But at the same time, you know, when you drop someone, it's a pretty natural reaction to soccer kick them. It's a natural reaction to grab the fence when someone's taking you down. We don't just say that's fine then. You know, I think he has a valid point about you'll probably never fully get rid of eye pokes. They do inadvertently happen in grappling. It can happen doing jiu-jitsu. But, you know, how many soccer kicks have we seen this year in the UFC? I don't think any, right? Because they are severely punished. So despite the urge to soccer kick someone, go watch Marcio Shogun Hua versus Paul Craig. He had Paul Craig on his back several times, and I know Shogun was thinking about jumping up and stomping on him like he used to in Pride. But instead, he dove and threw a giant right-hand bomb on Paul Craig before getting back up and doing it again. He was able to resist that urge, almost like he's a professional athlete who understands the rule set that he's fighting under. Crazy. I mean, let's take DJ, right? Did DJ ever knee someone on the ground illegally in the UFC? Not that I can recall. And as soon as he got over to one championship, he adjusted to that rule set. I mean, look at RDR since coming over to the UFC. He hasn't illegally thrown knees to anyone on the ground, and knees are like his only strike. So it being a natural, reflex action just isn't fair. And again, it's like, we don't apply this logic to any other sport. Yeah, he caught the soccer ball with his hands, but that was just a natural reaction, dude. And as far as saying it's what you're used to in Muay Thai with extending your hand, I really don't fully agree. I'm gonna actually demonstrate for y'all. All right, we got a 16-ounce Twins glove here, Muay Thai brand. And you can see, I mean, I can extend my hand somewhat, but I can't stick them out to the point where you'd be able to eye poke someone. And again, it's a different sport. And if you want to say this is a training glove, that's true. Well, let's see the 8-ounce one. This is more similar to what you would fight in. This is a yall glove. So let's take a look at how much I can actually open my hand. I mean, it's a bit more, but again, it's like, I would never stick my hand fully out. You kind of open it, like I'll post at people's face with my hand up, which is funny because it's kind of what you're allowed to do with your fingers towards the ceiling in MMA. And yet we still see people doing, this. Again, Muay Thai is a completely different sport with different rules.
One thing that nobody tells you about Muay Thai is that kicks to the groin are technically legal, and the referee won't stop the action if it happens. The reason for this is because you are expected to defend the kicks, with knees to the groin being bad as it's seen there's no way to defend them. If you're fighting outside of Thailand, this is different though, as most promotions ban groin strikes altogether. But if you're fighting in the land of smiles, make sure you've got yourself a steel cup, and don't expect the ref to give you a break, as going down to a groin strike will count as a KO.
So I think I've complained enough at this point. How do we actually fix it? Well, like I said, improving the gloves is probably a good step forward for the eye pokes specifically. And, fighters have complained about breaking their hands a lot with the UFC gloves. So I think the Onyx gloves that Trevor Whitman developed are, from what I understand, the best option out there. But the UFC doesn't want to switch to those because they can't own the company. They tried to buy the company from Whitman, and Whitman wanted to license them the gloves. So they said no. If you can't do the Onyx gloves, get Fairtex, Yall, Twins, somebody. You can definitely get a better glove. I mean, don't they own Pride? Like all the old video footage, they got the fighter contracts. Don't they own the rights to whatever the gloves were in Pride? I mean, I don't know if that I assume Japanese manufacturer for gloves even exists anymore, but give them the old Pride gloves. It seemed like everyone was pretty happy with those. But the path forward on correcting this shit, it really isn't about the gloves. It's about the reffing and the way the rules are. And speaking of Pride, I think the yellow card, red card system was pretty effective in keeping people from fouling. You didn't see a lot of eye pokes in those old fights, and there was no cage to grab. I mean, I would love to see the UFC switch to a ring. That's never going to happen. The octagon, the cage is a huge part of their branding at this point. So, hell, you might just make fence grabs legal. A hot take. If you just make fence grabs legal, then you don't have to deal with this issue. But punish fence grabs immediately. Same thing with eye pokes. You could maybe be a little bit more lax on lobos because someone can move into your shot in a way that you just should never have your fingers out like this. And the fence grab is inexcusable. Maybe something like the Pride yellow card, red card system. I don't really want fighters' purses to be affected in the fights though. That was part of the Pride rule set as far as the reffing goes. To take away money from one fighter and it goes to the other, I might be all right with that. These fighters don't get paid enough as it is. I don't want them losing money because of it. It's kind of like when someone gets fined for missing weight. I think that's justified because the money goes to their opponent. So if you want to take away money, that's fine to an extent, but that really isn't that effective when you consider not everyone has the same finances. A guy like Arman Saryukian, who is independently wealthy outside of the sport, is not going to be as affected as someone who's, fighting to pay their rent. This is a saying that applies to this situation, but really in life in general. Fines are only an effective punishment for the poor. If you're rich, you lose 20% of your purse for missing weight. That gives you a big advantage. Yeah, you can't miss weight every time, but maybe miss weight this one critical time in a non-title fight. So I think you have to take points away immediately. Use the replay system like every other major sport does. And if someone keeps fouling over and over again, kick them out of the UFC. I mean, DQ people. I'm telling you, the fouls will stop very quickly when people start losing points and therefore losing fights based off that, or even just straight up getting DQ'd. One issue with the point removals, though, is that not every fight is the same amount of rounds. It's a very weird thing in combat sports that a championship fight is 5 rounds for UFC, for example, and the normal non-championship bouts or the non-fight night main event fights as well are 3 rounds. So 1 point is far more impactful in a 3-round fight versus a 5-round fight. Also, if you take a point away but the guy is kind of a KO artist anyways. Taking a point away from someone like Derek Lewis is not going to affect them as much as a guy who goes to decision all the time. I really do like the yellow card system over in Japan. I mean, if we could use that to put an end to the avoid combat at all cost style of fighters just completely stalling on the ground or against the fence. You know, people used to get yellow cards for timidity, and that included on the feet too, for all the grappling fans watching this video. But yeah, the shit needs to change immediately, and I really hope that 321 is the catalyst for that change. So let me know down below what y'all think of the current state of reffing in the UFC, and thanks for watching. Until next time.